Hey, it's me, Jetski, and today we are taking a look at Silent Hill Lost Media. If you didn't already know, Silent Hill has just recently made a comeback with the remake of Silent Hill 2, as well as two brand new titles and a movie, which is coming out sometime in 2024. It is also the month of Halloween, so you have to do something kind of spooky for the month. I thought it'd be interesting if I took a look at Silent Hill Lost Media, as there is interesting videos specifically on certain titles. However, there's not one on a multitude of titles, so I thought it'd be cool if I took a crack at it. Before we start though, I will ask you to please like and sub. It really helps the channel out. Let's hop right into this. The first piece of Lost Media based around Silent Hill that we will be talking about today is a GBA storybook styled version of Silent Hill 1 for the PS1. Now, it's basically the same exact game, except the playable novel kind of thing. That game in particular isn't lost. However, there is a lot of lost media based around the things around it. For example, at one point there was a planned English dub of it that just never came out. And that sucks, but it still would have been interesting to see. Also, the main piece of lost media is actually a lot of DLC meant to be downloaded on a Japanese phone. Now, to actually understand the plot of the DLC itself, you'll actually have to go back to the original play novel kind of thing they had going on, where once you beat Harry's campaign, you could actually play as Sybil, and during actually playing through Sybil's campaign, you'll come across a boy and a girl fighting, and this boy falls into a river to which Sybil actually has to save him. This boy's name is Andy. Now, Andy's actually kind of important because he's the main character of the DLC as a whole. I think that's what makes it most interesting, though, however, is because he's such a limited character, you wouldn't think they'd build like this whole DLC story specifically around him. But they did, so I guess there's that. Now, I'm sure most of you are still wondering, how is this game still lost to this very day? I mean, it seems like a lot of people downloaded it, and you'd be right for the most part. The only problem is that every time you turn off your Game Boy Advance, the game itself would be completely wiped from its memory, meaning you'd actually have to go back and download it from your phone again and again every time you turn off the Game Boy Advance, which sucks, but I guess that's the way it is. That's why this game is probably still lost to this day, because unless you've had a Game Boy Advance running since the early days of its launching in Japan, then you're probably not going to have it. And for the most part, that's pretty much the only reason it's still lost to this day. The fact of the matter is that it's very unlikely that this will actually be found. However, if there is anything found, I would love to hear about it in the comments below. Also, I have an Instagram if you want to message me there. On to the next piece of lost media, which is a very fascinating one. Now, the next piece of lost media is something that I find very interesting, and it's been talked about a couple times by a bunch of different creators. However, it's not brought up very much anymore, and it has to do with PT. If you don't know what PT is, it's actually a playable teaser of Silent Hills, a canceled Silent Hill game. However, I'm not talking about like any of the demos that's got released or anything. So, a couple years ago, this game got announced. It was like for Steam or whatever, and it never came out. However, it shared a lot of striking similarities with the Silent Hills PT, or playable teaser. That's what made most people fascinated with it. And then the theory popped up that maybe this was Silent Hills. Maybe it was someone leaking it from the inside. The only thing was it never got released. So maybe it was Konami trying to silence this game from never coming out. Now, a couple creators have come and talked about this game. One of the biggest is Some Ordinary Gamers. He did a video on it a couple years ago, but nevertheless, it's always been fascinating to me, especially when you consider not very many people have actually talked about it. Also, the game itself has still not been released to this very day. In fact, it has constantly changed names over and over and over again. So, the idea that maybe this is Silent Hills and it's been trying to get released for years on end to no avail is very interesting to me. I would love to see this someday come out. Even if it's not Silent Hills, it's still a very interesting piece of Silent Hill lost media, at least somewhat related to Silent Hills. It's just weird to me that the possibility that somebody from the inside has itself been leaking Silent Hills. And sure, there's not very much of it, but the footage we have seen, I will admit, at least does share a striking similarity with the playable teaser, especially the graphically anyways, considering it seems it has a lot of assets that look eerily similar to that of Silent Hills. That's pretty much all I got to say on this piece of lost media. On to the next one. Now, the next piece of lost media based around Silent Hill I will be talking about has to do actually with my first ever lost media video. Now, if you don't know, I've actually talked about a company by the name of Climax. I previously stated, as I will state now, that Climax is a studio that mostly does other franchise games like Silent Hill. They have also done other franchises like Adventure Time and stuff like that. However, in 2006, they had made a pitch for a PS3 exclusive Silent Hill game. Now, this is a very interesting game as it not only had a pitch document, but it also had a demo. In fact, not just one demo, multiple demos. Now, the name of the game itself is Silent Hill Broken Covenant. Now, Silent Hill Broken Covenant is kind of a strange game because it kind of was like an idea that Silent Hill is not just bound to this one place. It can spread all over the place. Apparently it spread to the swamps of Louisiana, and you play as some kind of trucker guy who kind of gets lost in this place. So he has to explore this Silent Hill-esque place, apparently called Broken Covenant or something, I don't know. It's a little strange, but it is very interesting. So, the idea itself is a bit flawed to me, but I kind of like what they were going for. Another interesting thing about this, though, as I previously mentioned, is that there's a couple demos that have come out around it. Now, only one has been actually released, and it uses a very early version of the Unreal Engine version 3, which is super interesting, but I don't know, it's pretty rough looking. It does use a lot of Silent Hill Origins assets too, which is one of Climax's bigger games. It also has a Resident Evil 4 style camera, which I find quite interesting, as that was not implemented to any Silent Hill games up till that point. I would have definitely liked to have seen this kind of game come out, but apparently Konami wasn't very interested in the idea. At that point, they'd actually slowed down a lot on Silent Hill games, which kind of sucks. I think at that point, one of their last Silent Hill games was Silent Hill Shattered Memories. They hadn't released much Silent Hill games up to that point afterwards either, so, you know, it kind of sucks, but honestly, I'm kind of glad we didn't get it, because the game itself does sound kind of rough, but maybe it would have changed and turned into an utter masterpiece. We'll never know. That's pretty much all I get to say on this one. In conclusion, I do think there's something quite eerie about lost media, specifically from a horror franchise. It just gives you somewhat of an uneasy feeling. It's a lot different from like a Nintendo or Sonic game that got lost, because this is very eerie, it's creepy, it's not a normal feeling. That's pretty much all I got to say for today. It was Amiya Jetski, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.